Okay, we need to talk about the new Tears of the Kingdom trailer that literally just dropped right now. So Nintendo uploaded on their channel on YouTube where Aonuma basically plays a good chunk of the game on the Switch. It looks great so far. So let's basically just jump straight in. First of all, just like generally gameplay and how everything looks, right? Tears of the Kingdom looked much more refined and polished than Breath of the Wild did. Breath of the Wild, obviously, it was a phenomenal game, but it's coming on like 6 years old now, roughly. And with Tears of the Kingdom, they're basically pushing everything much further. So, for example, right, the physics engine was something that Breath of the Wild was like praised for by everybody, and it seems like in Tears of the Kingdom they're taking it a few steps further because now Link has a bunch of abilities which directly influence the world around him, and obviously the physics of how everything works, and also just in terms of how everything looks. Everything just looks more polished. Like for example, like Link's movement, his horse's movement, even small stuff like how the grass sways in the wind, right? And how everything looks everywhere else. It just looks much more polished than Breath of the Wild. So that brings us nicely onto Link's new abilities. So the first one is Recall, which according to Aonuma, rewinds an item's movement. So I would assume, right, that as well as using this on static objects, you can use this on moving objects as well. Because we saw that that clip in a much earlier trailer where a spiked boulder is coming down towards Link. He stops it and rewinds its movement. So I'm assuming it should only work on inanimate objects. But I'm wondering how far you can push this. So for example, right, if somebody fires an arrow at Link, would you be able to, if you time it just perfectly, use Recall, stop the arrow in time just before it hits Link, rewind its movement, and have it essentially, rebound back to the enemy? It's an interesting question. And it's, say, for example, right, assuming we have Guardians in this game, which seems unlikely, would you be able to rewind their laser beams as well? Because that would be dope. That would be so cool. Yeah, because in this trailer, the only thing we see Recall being used for is for movement. Link uses Recall to get up onto the Sky Islands. By the way, Sky Islands, One Piece, I like it. I like the link here. Link. It seems like they're introducing a new type of enemy called a construct. They seem like mechanical in nature, sort of like, something to do with the ancient technology, something like that at least. They're probably linked to Link's arm as well. But yeah, they have the same sort of like greenish color, and they don't look particularly like appealing, right? They seem pretty grotesque, just like again Link's arm. And now for the next ability, which I think is really the standout, right? Is Fuse. So Fuse allows, as the name implies, it allows Link to fuse multiple objects. So for example, right, he uses it in the trailer to fuse a stick with a rock, right? Making like as Aonuma says, a makeshift hammer. And he also fuses two weapons, so I think it was like a stick and a pitchfork, to make essentially a really long spear with a pitchfork at the end. And this is interesting, right? This is really interesting because this suddenly opens the gates to many different combinations of items, of weapons and everything. So one question I have is, how far can you push this fuse ability? I.e., how many items can you fuse with each other? Is it just two? Is it multiple? Is it more? And another thing is now items that were previously, I don't want to say useless, but they didn't have too much utility to them, like eyeballs and stuff like that, right? Now eyeballs are like extremely handy because if you fuse them with an arrow, it basically becomes a homing arrow, and that's very powerful. So I'm really looking forward to seeing how all of these different combinations and fusions interact with one another, and how how creative people can get with these, because Zelda fans are just incredibly creative, right, when using all of these various things. So Fuse, I think, is going to be a fan favorite. And now for another new ability that's very interesting. It's called Ultra Hand, and it basically allows Link to so it's similar to Fuse in the sense that Link can take two things and stick them together, but while fusing basically creates a brand new object. So it replaces the two existing objects with one object. Ultra Hand literally just like slaps them onto each other, so it connects them, right? It sticks them together. And Aonuma uses it in the gameplay demo to create like a raft from three logs. And again, like, I wonder how far you can push this. Can you fuse certain things, and then use Ultra Hand to take those fused objects and stick them to each other. And what sort of things could you make with this ability, right? Because again, in the previous trailer, they showed off essentially like a car, like a floating plane of some sort, and it's cool, man. It's really cool. Like, it really does open up. It opens up the world so much, and it allows you to do so much with really not very much at all. Because everything you pick up now suddenly has incredible utility, because you can fuse it with other things. You can use those things to essentially combine without fusing with other things. Really excited, man. I'm really excited. And then Link's final ability is Ascend, and this basically allows him to, whenever he's within an enclosed space, anything that has a ceiling, it allows him to essentially point up directly towards that ceiling and go straight through it. And in this case, it's interesting because the thing about Breath of the Wild that really impressed me was just its sheer verticality. You could literally climb anything if you had enough stamina. You could climb anything, right? And this takes that again to another level, because this really doesn't need you don't need stamina anymore to climb. Basically, if you can find some sort of enclosed space like a cave or anything really, and you can point straight up, then Link can just essentially swim straight through that object and arrive right at the top. And I guess this makes sense, right? Because the whole premise of the game is Hyrule has basically, lifted up, parts of it has lifted up to create a sky islands. So it makes sense that there's like an increased, I guess, amount of verticality, right? But just making it so easy for Link to basically ascend, as the name implies, just to ascend any peak or anything, right? With basically no limit to his stamina is pretty crazy. And I wonder how early these abilities are going to be made available to us, right? Because I wonder if it's going to be like, because I wonder if it's going to be like Breath of the Wild, where we were essentially given access to all of Link's abilities from the get go, and from then on it was just about experimenting, upgrading things here and there. But we had everything from the beginning, or if it's going to be like a more staggered rollout, where Link gradually gains access to these abilities. Man, it's so cool, man. It's so cool. And I wonder what the limit is for Ascent. Obviously, he can't, you can't just look at a sky island and have Link ascend straight there. But I wonder how far you could go. I wonder how far you could go. So it's another interesting thing is how Link takes no damage as he falls from the sky island. I don't recall exactly, but I believe in Breath of the Wild you did take 4 damage when you fell into a body of water. I might be wrong. Essentially, it seems very easy to get up to those sky islands and then also get back down again. The only thing I'm hesitant about is if we have access to these sky islands early in the game, right? Like very early in the game, then you can literally probably use them to get basically anywhere else with almost no difficulty. Which, to be fair, was pretty similar to Breath of the Wild in the sense that you could go anywhere you wanted. But because you can just glide down from a sky island, it may pose no challenge really to get to anywhere else on the map, just because you're so high up. And all you have to do is use like a mixture of gliding and diving to get to most places on the map. So that's going to be interesting to see how they deal with all of this stuff. But it's looking good, man. It's looking really good. It really is. And then finally, they showed off 3 brand new products, all themed around Tears of the Kingdom. So there's the new special editions OLED Switch. There's the Pro Controller, and there's finally the case for the Switch, and all of them are themed after Tears of the Kingdom. I really like the look of that Pro Controller. I enjoy collecting Pro Controllers to some extent, so that's something I really want to pick up. And the design on the Switch dock as well is just phenomenal. It looks beautiful. It looks absolutely beautiful. So I'm not going to pick one up. I really am not, just because I know Nintendo are going to announce some sort of successor to the Switch fairly soon. Well, I have an inkling, but I don't want to buy another Switch this far into its life cycle. But it does look really good. But yeah, anyway, if you're interested in the Steam Deck by any chance, click here to see my video on it, and I'll be releasing more Steam Deck content in the very near future, so stay tuned for that, and thanks for watching. See ya.